Hey everybody. Welcome to Overtime at WTTS Radio. You're live with your girl, Shell Color Beauty. I am so happy to see you. Happy Tuesday to you. Listen, I miss you. You know, I always miss you when we don't see each other from week to week. I'll say it every week. And listen, I promised myself that I would say to you every week that God is beautiful for situation because I don't want you to forget that. God is beautiful for situation. And so wherever you find yourself right now, whatever situation you find yourself in, remember that God is beautiful for your situation. Don't observe the wind. The word of God says that he who faints in the day of adversity, he who observes the wind in the day of adversity, faith is small. And so we know that's not your testimony today. So I want to just say to you, just stay encouraged, whatever it is that you're going through. I'm just work with me a little bit because my producer is working with some stuff, and so I'm gonna try to stay focused as well. But I had a few things in my heart. First of all, I want to talk about the Oscars. Oh my God, the Oscars were the bomb. I mean, they were the bomb. Viola Davis, to me, she is the epitome of a lady. I mean, that woman really has her lady together. And you know when a woman has their lady together, when they can be in their full organic self and not be moved by who's in the audience, not be moved by, and almost command the room as if she dared them to turn the music on her. I was like, God, she is bad. I mean, I really was so touched by her to the point where sometimes when people speak, God has blessed me to be able to hear the soul of the matter, and that girl's soul is just, she spoke from her soul. It was organic, it was real, it was something about it that was very spiritual, and I'm just, as a black woman, I it just did my heart well because it's something about when you come into your one place with yourself, your sweet spot, that you really can embrace. You can command your atmosphere anywhere you go. You become it's like you the thermometer. You tell it what it's going to be. You decide what the temperature is going to be around you. And she actually just command that stage. She said what was, I mean, she spoke to the heart of it. And I tell you, being an artist has got to be a wonderful thing when you can tell stories about real life people. And she does it in such a wonderful way. I mean, her skill set and her craft is just phenomenal. And I just was in awe of her. I said, God, that's the lady that's got her lady together. And so that was kind of like my highlight from, just the last few days, just watching little bits and pieces of the Oscars. And then I was reflecting on something that I heard Denzel say a few weeks ago. Denzel Washington. I mean, he's another brother that's just got himself together. Something about when you come through life, and on one side it looks like from the outside looking in, it looks like everything is going well. But, I like the fact that they make it real plain and clear when they have an opportunity to speak to the masses. And he said, we fall down 7 times and we get up 8. And I thought about that, and I thought about it. I said, God, that is really, really like how life really is. You fall down and you just keep getting up. And as I was coming in today, I was thinking about a few things. I'm always reflecting on my life. I'm always reflecting about where I am as opposed to where I was a month ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, and where I plan to be in another month, another 6 months, another year. And I've learned some things over my lifetime. I am a person, and I'm very heartfelt. I'm pretty transparent. I went through a period in my life where I went through some things, and God began to speak to me as I was on my way to the studio today about I just about how we receive things in our lives. And I was thinking about a time in my life where I used to be a talker, a huge talker. And then I went through something that actually shut me up. It actually put me in bondage. And then when I came out of it, then I just started talking and I couldn't stop. And then God now put me in a place where I have a good balance. Because the Bible says, be quick to listen and slow to speak. You have to know when to speak, and you have to know when to be quiet, and you have to know execute the right word in the right season. I think the Bible says a right word, a good and spoken in the right season it's how good it is, And so I'm always exercising the right word in the right season. And I was thinking about how when life hits you, it tries to take you off of your original DNA, and how what that fight looks like to get back. every week we talk about something different because, I'm a makeup artist. That's what I've been doing for 30 years. That's what I do. I'm also in the financial industry. And so those are two things: makeup and beauty, and finances are my two strengths. I talk in those lanes. And so, and God just happens to use my gift of speaking to do that. But I learned that when you get away from your DNA, you have to fight to get back. And there are many things that happen in the makeup world. When we talk about colors and we talk about exaggeration of colors, we say a plethora of colors, an over exaggeration of colors. And that's how life is. Life is an over exaggeration of so many events that take place. The beautiful thing about it is that if you learn how to abstract the colors from each event, each experience, you will find that it's not just black and white. So therefore, we have no reason to judge each other because it's not just black and white. And then it's not always colorful, but you have to learn how to add the color where there is black and white to make it, I guess, if you could say, edible, digestible. You can digest it. It's funny, I'm a food connoisseur. I love food. I love food. And sorbet, some say that sorbet is meant to eat. It's an icy kind of like, a puree kind of dessert, like ice cream, but it's fruit. Which has been said many times that sorbet is meant to eat before your meal. Actually, it's supposed to clean your palate, to prepare your palate to receive the idea of the food that you're supposed to have, to get it in its full idea of the essence of the taste, the flavor that you're supposed to experience in the food. But oftentimes, because I usually eat a good meal, and I'm a woman. When I go out to eat, I eat. After I eat, I like something a little sweet to kind of like cool my palate off, just kind of make everything go back to where it's supposed to be, calm everything down. And I was thinking about that on the way to the studio. I said, life is like that, God. Sometimes my producer and I was talking, and I told you we always have great conversations, but we were talking about how, sometimes we don't really want the meat of stuff. We're okay when you just touch us a little bit, but we're not okay when we're challenged to our core, to our real core. And it's not always going to be about a lot of things that you're going to get. It's really going to be about how you're lined up in your internal government. We talk about that all the time, but it was something as a revelation that I got today coming here. And the Lord said to me, he said, sometimes when you eat the sorbet before the meal, before the meat and potatoes, the meat and potatoes is sometimes somebody has to say something to you that you don't like. Even Jesus said to his disciples, there's some things I can't say to you right now because you won't be able to bear it. Because Christ knew that they weren't mature enough, that emotionally they had not learned discipline in their emotions. They had not learned how to control their emotions enough to receive some of the hard sayings that Christ wanted to teach them that was going to be good for their lives. And so, and then there's sometimes, God said to me, he said, that's what happens when you try to eat the sorbet before the food. You try to give a little sweetness to clean off the palate before you get the meat that's going to make you a little bitter sometimes. But if you just let it digest, it's going to do both. It's going to be bitter going down, but once it settles, it's going to give you the nourishment that you need. And so then the Lord began to minister to me. He said, but then in your case, Michelle, sometimes, I'm a person, I'm pretty kind of straight, no chaser. I don't do a whole lot of chasing with my words, but I've had to learn how to mix it with some honey. And so for me, I can take it straight. So I like the strong meat on my plate. But afterwards, I want to eat some sorbet. And what God began to say to me, he said, for you like it straight. But after that, once you have a chance to digest it, you need a little sweetness on it so that you can start walking it out in the loveliness of it. That was beautiful, God. I said, God, that was beautiful. And so that's how it is with our lives. Sometimes we have to deal with things that are not so lovely. And so you can't shy away from it because it goes down bitter and you don't like. Sometimes you might not like who's delivering it. You might not like the fact that they saw you. And that's the other thing. We get in a place where we don't want to be seen as if, we're not like mummies. I mean, we have souls and we have spiritual gifts and we have natural gifts. And to the spiritual eye, all things are really naked to that person who is really walking spiritually. But if the gifts are used properly, it's never to harm you. It's to encourage you, exhort you, and nourish you, to build you up. And so I was thinking about a time in my life, I was this live out loud kind of young woman, and I got in a situation that, we have to be so mindful of the people that we entertain in our lives. Learned something about maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Someone was talking to me, and I'm pretty much, if you say something and I don't feel like I agree, I will say, I don't think you're right there. But in this particular situation, I was sharing my heart with this person, not to look weak, but to be transparent enough to get what I needed, because a closed mouth never gets fed. And so I knew that I had a need for something, and so I was sharing. Unfortunately, the person that I shared it with, they didn't receive it in the spirit I was sharing, and they weren't sensitive enough to understand that I had a need. So immediately what they said was, "Oh, I just feel like you need some confidence in that area." And I said to myself, I said, "God, my confidence is in you. I'm pretty good in that area. I'm okay. I've gone through that season. I'm pretty good in that area." And the Lord said to me, "Don't say anything. Sometimes you have to be slow to speak and just listen." And so, in the past, I would be like, I would really go through something in my pride to like, let me just get that straight. But I said, no, it's no need to. Sometimes you have to let people um, misperceive you, and let it be okay. And let it be okay, because sometimes in your attempt to try to prove them wrong, you say too much. I need to say that again. Sometimes you need to you need to be okay letting people misperceive you, because God has an appointed time. That's his hour for you, where he will present you. And then it just kind of dismantles everything that they built up in their mind about you. But you have to learn how to just hold it. My mother used to say, hold your tomatoes, hold your spiritual tomatoes. Just put it on freeze for a minute. Everything doesn't require a response. As a young girl, my mother used to, I used to talk a lot, and then I would not talk in school, but I would get home and just let it rip. And then when I got to be a younger woman, I was a live out loud kind of woman, like I said, and I got in a situation, and when you invite certain people in your lives, you have to identify exactly what's happening with you when you do. So I got into this situation that ultimately afflicted me. The first thing was it entangled me, then it afflicted me, and then it made me ashamed, and then before it was all finished and done, I was in bondage because of the guilt of it. And so then I became closed mouth, because I was too ashamed to be able to bear that, and let someone else see me in that way. And so, it's funny. I didn't know why I was going down this road today, and I don't know why. Maybe whoever's listening, you know what you're supposed to do, and you know what God has put in your heart. And I never try to act like I know it. I just allow the Lord to use me. But I want to say to you that always be mindful who's in your life. Some things, don't give it air. Don't give it a conversation. Don't respond to it, because sometimes when you don't, you can see the person a lot better. You can see the spirit of what that thing is trying to do to you a lot better. Had I not been so gullible at the time, living out loud to the point where I didn't have any balance, I probably wouldn't have gotten entangled in this particular thing in my life. But because I was so bent on just being who I was and not allowing the Lord to train me and to teach me how to bridle my personality, because you do have to bridle yourself. Some you can't. It's like a parent doesn't parent the same two children the same way. With one parent, she can be out of control, just straight. The other child, she may have to go around the mulberry bush and go around and kind of curve a little bit more, because of the fact that that child's a little bit more sensitive. They're not mature enough to handle that part of her, and their insides needs a little bit more nurturing. And so that's how it is when we have people in our lives. We have to know how much of ourselves to give to that person. And that, by no means am I saying that you withhold yourself, because you have to, at the end of the day, you've got to be true to who you are. You've got to be true to that person. Even if it means to everybody that you look, like the oddball, so what? I'm used to that place. And I hate to say it, it's sad to say, but I am used to that place. It's not really sad to say, it's just that it's a reality that I came to, that I said, what am I going to do? Am I going to make this my friend, or am I going to make it my enemy? And so I've decided to make it my friend. And so I want to just encourage you. I don't really know why I'm going here tonight, but I'm going to go with it. To really be mindful of what you and who you invite in your space. Why? Because Some people can come into your lives and they will leave a holocaustal experience where it will take you so long to get back what you need to get back. And that the problem with that is that when it's time to get healed, I'm tying it into the sorbet and the meal. When it's time to get healed, you got to deal with some harsh, hard realities. You have to own it. And so a lot of times we miss the best part of our healing because we can't deal with the harsh, hard realities of what that thing shaped in us. I always talk about your original DNA and going back to the organic plan of God for your life. Listen, everybody is not going to be an entrepreneur. I want to say this. Everybody's not going to be a coach. Everybody's not going to be a preacher. Everybody's not going to be an actress or a singer. Everybody's not going to be that. When I say organic stuff, I mean the original intent that God had for your life when he thought of you so lovely before you were manifested in this earth. Because the Bible says we were with him before we came here. And so as when we invite certain things in our lives, they have to be an attribute. They have to complement our lives. A lot of time, I spent a lot of time because I love people and I love God so much that I'm like, God, however you want to use me, let me be a blessing. Let me see what you said about that person. Let me love them from that place. And the Lord said, I need you to see that, but I need you to deal with who they are today. Because if you don't deal with who they are today, it has the ability to reshape you, and whereby your palate is now compromised. So you take on things on your palate, your internal palate, that's going to take a minute to unloose and release. And so before I can move you into the next thing, I've got to start removing and cleaning your palate, the same way sorbet does. So he gives you a little bit of meat that's kind of, bitter and tough. And then he comes and he gives you a little bit of sweetness. But sometimes he gives you the sweetness first so that you may trust him to know he's for you and that he loves you. And he's got to come along and be a father. Because a father doesn't just give you everything he wants. He gives you a lot of what you need because he knows what's down the road. That's what a parent does. A good parent does that. And so, I'm challenging you today to clean your palate, to find out what's on your palate, because I've discovered that things that I've been trying to move into, they are moving at a pace that I thought at first it was like, oh, this is moving slow. And God said, no, it's moving at the right speed, because you didn't realize that your palate had accumulated the wrong type of things. You tasted things that really weren't. They weren't good for you. You really didn't like them, but you tasted them anyway because you taught that to your palate. And so I need you to start cleaning your palate so that when you move into the next thing, you operating from a very organic place. And so I'm stuck right there, y'all. I'm really stuck right there because in life we have so many experiences that reshape us so much that when we meet people along the way, because they were not there with us in the beginning before we met that thing that reshaped us, their perception of us becomes off, and they may think that they are perceiving correctly. But if you're not perceiving it, if you're not seeing me through the lenses of love to see how am I going to be my sister's keeper, or how am I going to be lovely to this woman, or that gentleman, then you're not seeing accurately, because God was only going to let you, when it's through God, it's through the lenses of his love. Therefore, you have the right word to execute in the right season. So therefore, when it hits the palate of the soul, it's not disruptive to it, but it's enough to start moving stuff around, getting stuff, awakened again. So you can start getting it away from you, moving it out the way. Some things you have to slay. Some giants you have to decide in your mind, I'm going to slay this giant once and for all. Once and for all. I need to hear what I don't want to hear. You ever see a person that's, like I go to church, and so sometimes I see people that prophesy over all the time, and the word is the right word, but because they're so engulfed in doing it their way, and that's the way they learned, they never ever truly get the manifestation of that word in their life. They never can, because there's something, and my producer and I was just talking about this earlier. We are people that when we have built up certain idols and certain, erect certain standards in our life, we can't fathom the thought that that may not be the way that God was taking us in. That it may possibly be that God is saying, you only know that because you learned that. But maybe I need to teach you something else. So that reshaped you. I'm going somewhere with this, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to unpack it today, but I am. I'm going somewhere with this. We're back on healing. I'm back on healing because healing is very close and near and dear to my heart. Like I love social media. I see a lot of things on social media. I have a lot of respect for some people on social media and how they handle their social media presence. And then I see some people, I'm like, okay, this is what it is, and this is all it's about, But sometimes I take a step back and I say, there's a bigger thing happening with this situation right here. That's the part that they're not saying, but it's hiding behind this big loud cloud here, this big loud something that they're doing here. And then I'll sit back and sometimes God will speak to me and say, so and so and so and that's and that and that. And that person really is dealing with this. And because I don't have any connection with these people, I'm only called to maybe just either say, or pray, or say, God, you know what? Don't let them get to this place and have to come back and get that together and clean their palate off for that. I don't really know who I'm speaking to, but I believe somebody's getting this. I'm going to take about 60 seconds, maybe less, and just kind of give me a glass of water and breathe a little bit and come back. Hey everybody, you're back. You're back with Overtime Live at WTTS Radio Show, your girl Color Beauty. So listen, we're talking about, things that reshape our lives, and I'm going to get real personal for a second because I only got 5 minutes with you all, and I'm going to get off this air in 5 minutes. But let me say this. I went through that situation I was telling you about, and it reshaped me to the point where I didn't recognize myself for quite some time. And the journey coming back to me was it was the biggest challenge of my life. It was the biggest challenge of my life. As a matter of fact, I never thought I would ever see myself in that way. I never thought, I was having a hard time believing that that's what had happened to me, that I actually was not in the person that I knew, Nichelle. And so I had to go through, old mentor, I think I've shared with you before, said to me, if you walk in the desert 42 miles, when you turn around and walk out, it's 42 miles out. But it's funny because the revelation that God gave me is that when you walk in the desert, you don't know that these booby traps are set up because you think you're walking in the park. But you really walking in a desert and it's a land full of just different mines and things that blow up in your face and try to attack you and try to violate you, so to speak. But when you turn around and walk out, your distance may be the same, but your recovery time should be quicker. And I'll tell you why. Because at this point, you should be gaining the wisdom walking out like I've seen that before. That's not going to be the response for that. I've seen that before. My response for that is differently. And so as I began to walk out of this situation and get back to my organic self, I had endured many things. I had endured a lot of ridicule, a lot of people just kind of looking at me side eye and judging me. And, some people were saying, oh, she's crazy. And listen, for a minute, I was out. I was checked out because I was at a place where I had crashed. And so I was angry because I've said to myself, how did I let this happen? Don't you know that anything that plans to take you out, it is initially going to be good to you? I have got to say that again. You will always be able to identify a perpetrator. Now I'm going to ask y'all to pray for me because I pray against the spirit of backlash because the devil, he can't win with me. No, I don't play them games, devil. You can't win with me. But I'm going to give you a little nugget right here. You have to be mindful of people who enter into your life and immediately they just so good, it's unbelievable. Listen, sometimes if it's unbelievable, it's unbelievable. A perpetrator doesn't get in because he says, I'm a perpetrator, or she says, I'm a perpetrator. Perpetrator gets in because they present themselves as lovely. They present themselves to be, everybody likes this person. Everybody, that's a good person. Everybody speaks well of that person. But usually it's the people that everybody puts in high regard. I'm going to say that again. Usually it's the people that everyone puts in high regard are the ones who are, they commit the most violations. I'm going to say it that way. Why? Because they are armored, because their armor has been built around what those others looking on them without knowing them speak of them, say of them, and think of them. Why? Because they only seeing that person from the distance that they are able to. And so I'm always amazed when things happen. We say, oh, that couldn't happen. Why couldn't they do it? Why? Because you've put that person in high regard in your mind. You've put that person in a place, in a pedestal that if they did do something, it would crush you too much. So to deal with this discomfort of being crushed, you will allow yourself to say, no, that didn't happen. No, they think it's impossible. They didn't do that. You know, a lot of people's lives have been reshaped because they were entangled and afflicted by someone who was a perpetrator and was very good at it. Very, very good at it. Very good at it. And it reshaped their lives. And coming back to themselves was more painful because God had to almost allow those looking on the situation who thought favorable of the person that was in high regard. You have to almost overcome and dismantle that. Not what they say, because they're going to think and say what they want to say, but dismantle how it affects you, how it touches you. And so I've been through that place in my life where I said, you know what? I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think. I don't care how many clicks you get in to talk about it. I'm okay with that. Because at the end of the day, I go to sleep as shell. When I wake up shell. Not shell based on what you say, shell based on what I know. Shell based on what I know I've been through. I'm going to challenge you that you look at people from their organic place, no matter what they've been through and where they are. Deal with who they are today, because if who they are today is not good for you, don't mess with it. But before you make one judgment in your mind about that situation, about even what you think they're doing that they shouldn't be doing, you think about it. Think about it. That situation in my life was ordained for me to go through because it was what birthed the anointing of God in my life. Let me say this. I couldn't have got what I got on my life had I not gone through it. I made it my friend. But the painful part of it was walking through it to get to this place where I could say, oh, that was my friend. Because it gave me something I couldn't get just saying, God, I'll give me that. So I'm way, way out of time. I hope you got blessed. I've asked you before, and I'm going to ask you again. If it's something that you want to talk about, please inbox me at Nichelle C. Johnson or Color Beauty LLC. That's KOLOR Beauty LLC. With what's on your heart. Inbox me if that's something you want to talk about. If there's something you got on your heart, I promise you, I won't give you up. I won't tell it. I won't say who it is. Some people have things in their heart that they want to talk about, and they want some help. They want some answers, and they don't want to put themselves out there. Don't worry. You safe with me. I'm not going to give you up because I don't have the luxury to do that for you. You know why? Because God, the word of God says love covers a multitude of sins, and love does his neighbor no ill. And so we have to cover one another. We have to. So whatever it is that you desire to have unfolded in this time together, please don't be afraid. Don't feel bad. Let me tell you something. There's nothing out there that actually surprises me anymore. I'm surprised at how many things I know that I thought would surprise me that don't. And I think it's just because God has brought me through life enough to say, you don't have the luxury to look at that sideways. And so, I enjoy my time with y'all. I'm out of time. I'm so sad because this time went by so fast. But I love you. I love that we get together every Tuesday. And I hope you come and see me again next Tuesday. Until we see each other again, y'all, it's Color Beauty on Overtime, WTTS Radio. Y'all stay blessed.